our business is really operating the most efficient way possible? As a CEO or owner, what operations keep you up at night? The answers to smart scaling may surprise you.
You're listening to Scaling Up, a podcast for business leaders.
I'm your host, Yong Kim from Core Strategies, powered by Sales Acceleration. My guest today, Erica Quigley, is an author, speaker, and business operations expert specializing in process optimization and systems that drive efficiency and profitability. Erica empowers leaders to streamline operations, elevate team productivity, and achieve long-term success. She is the CEO of Poka-Yoke Solutions, which offers strategic operations support, business process streamlining, and development and playbook documentation to grow companies. Erica, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Yong. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I know you just came back from Hawaii, so how are the businesses ran in Hawaii? Are they a little bit more laid back than the States?
You know what I love about Hawaii is island time. And yes, I think it is a little bit more laid back there. But, every business has their own thing. And it was nice to spend some time in Hawaii. And the thing that's really cool about this time and place that we are in the business world is that you can take trips like that and things can still go on. We were supposed to have a shorter trip and I ended up extending it by 7 days. And it was fine. I just worked East Coast time while I was in Hawaii.
Yeah. You know what? That's a great point. And it's kind of leading right into the first question I had. Obviously you're an inspiring founder, CEO, and the company and the way we do business has evolved. What have you seen and how has your company evolved the past several years to bring you up to this point?
Yeah, I started Poka-Yoke Solutions in 2018. Back then, it was just me as a consultant. And the reason I started it was because I was looking for some sort of work-life balance. And so I ended up leaving my corporate job to start consulting. And at that point, I wasn't thinking like, let's build a company. I was just thinking, let's get some control over my time and my schedule for myself. So since 2018, it was just me. And now I'm not even normally involved with client engagements anymore. I have a team of people who are better than that at me, than I am, and it's been crazy ride,
Yeah, I remember way back when I was an individual contributor, and I'm actually that now as a consultant from where you started. But it was a challenge from actually being on your own, then managing people and being responsible for them ultimately. At least when I was, managing and training a team, at certain points up to like 60 people, there was a company that was behind it. Now you're the company, and there's probably some pretty cool success stories that you had, especially with some of the people that you've hired and brought onto your company. What is the most proudest accomplishment you had with the people that you kind of led and groomed through your company?
Well, to that point, like growing a company, like having the company behind you is something that I think when you start to grow a company, it wasn't the first thing I was thinking about, and in order to be able to grow that company and to become that brand, you have to have someone helping with the implementation. So as over the last few years, as I've grown the team, as I've grown the company, I have been most excited about finding these people who are excited to work with me, who are excited for my vision and I know I said it earlier, but like better than me at certain things. And that's been so exciting to find people who have more experience in certain industries, to find people who are better at project management, to find people who are better at even doing process flow. And I thought that was I thought that was the thing that was going to have me stand apart from everyone else. But then I get to find people who are even better. That's like my most favorite thing. It was about a little over a year ago. So it was in summer of 2023 when I decided I'm ready to, promote myself to CEO. And when I made that decision, that was when I began like, okay, I've got to get serious about finding the experts in these things so that we can begin to build out teams of people to support our clients.
So that was ultimately when you figured out how you're going to scale up your company. You really need people that, and it's hard to admit, Erica, and you're very humble in saying that you hire people that are better than you. And I think that's a pretty cool aspect of what you do, and will definitely make you a better leader. Because, and I don't perceive this, and I doubt your team perceives this. You don't go as that you're better than everyone. Which I've met some CEOs and founders. Sometimes even large companies that they just don't lose that. So I really appreciate that about you, and I guess through this process you've probably helped a ton of different companies. What do you typically find, and when it comes to challenges with COOs or VP of operations that sometimes they just overlook and they don't realize there's an issue and there's a path to greater success with your help?
Yeah. We, and to what you just said, we generally support the COOs of companies, and the operations team, because we look at things. We like help them with what the biggest challenge is that we see, which is time. So everyone in operation who's working in operations already has an operational mindset. They were hired and they're at that company for that reason. But what happens is all of these like strategic operations items that they know need to be fixed, like creating standard operating procedures, making sure their systems work together, making sure there's cohesive like company playbook that is across the company. Those are all things that they start and those are on their list and they're like, I'm going to do this. And then there's the daily operations things that pop up and they're putting out fires and they're answering escalations. And these strategic operations things just get lower and lower and lower on their list. Well, they're still high on their list, but there's so many other things that are higher, right? And unfortunately, that's the biggest challenge that we solve for. Because everyone knows what they need to do. Everyone knows, but they need someone who can resonate with what they already know and can just take it and run with it.
Yeah. But that's going to be kind of hard to get out of, people in executive leadership roles. How do you convince them to say, I really could do better if there was two of me, but there's priorities that I know are important, but I just can't get to them. It's kind of hard to get someone to really admit to that, so how do you strategize to get some good information out of the client?
Yeah. And you and I know each other pretty well, but other people who might be listening to our conversation don't know it as well, that I'm a big believer in like abundance and in attraction and in like the word, when you said convincing, I'm like, I don't really like to think about it as convincing people. There are companies where the sales cycle is longer, where they meet me and they're like, yeah, well, that is stuff that we could figure out ourselves. We have a very smart team. We know how to do this stuff. We know how to write standard operating procedures and those things. So I don't necessarily think of it as convincing, but I think of it as when the time is right and when they're like, you know what, I could really use a pair of hands around here to keep things organized and to keep our strategic operations on track and to make sure that all of these things that I've had in my mind are being followed and that they're being implemented at the company. So I like to think about it that way rather than convincing.
Okay. Bad choice of words.
No. It's not at all. I actually think that that's really interesting because it's just a different way of looking at it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it is, and that's probably makes you way different than some other companies that you compete with. Do you think that's what makes you shine versus some other operationally optimization companies? There's a lot of them out there. I'm sure they're very good. What makes you a little bit different and your team a little bit different than what's out there?
I think one of the big things, and this is what I started adding on early into when I started the company, is the idea that we come into the company and we help implement it. So oftentimes process optimization, you can hire a consultant, like when we do this too, to workshop and go through what is the best way to optimize this process. How can we streamline things? What are the systems that need to be looked at? What are the SOPs that need to be written? And then at the end of that engagement, you're left with a to-do list. When I was probably in the first 1 to 2 years of the company, it just felt so like heavy leaving people with a to-do list of things and then checking back in on them and realizing, right, they don't have the time to get done. So I think one of the things that really sets us apart from other companies is that I've built out that team of implementers that after there is that list of all of the SOPs that need to be created, there's that list of the things that need to be changed within the company. We have an operations expert, we have a process analyst, we have a project manager, and they make sure that all of that stuff gets done, whether it's by our team or whether it's by project managing the operations team at the company or the employees at the company.
Okay. So do you typically have a preconception? Like what we all know, there's the highlight areas that people just struggle with. Okay. And prioritizing them probably varies depending on the COO or the CEO or COO that you're talking to. Establishing that list is got to be somewhat instrumental, but a little difficult. Like, how do you ask for their assistance, but make sure they're comfortable with it? Because if you ask me, hey, Young, where's a list of things that you could improve upon? Everyone has a list, but there might be some things I'm just not going to put on there. But they're important. I need to make sure that the openness is there, because that's when you really start helping people, when they really tell you, truthfully, some of the challenges that they're running into.
I think that because of our demeanor and the way that we approach our clients, that they find us trustworthy. And that's what I like to say. Now, we have it on our Poka-Yoke website too, that we like to build trust with every project. We approach with curiosity. We approach with, the desire to help, to support. And I like to use the word support rather than like we're coming in to do something that's not already being done. It is being done. It's just fragmented and it needs some support to get it there. And I think it's the approach that allows people to open up with us. Now, we do have a lot of different types of workshops that we'll do depending on what we observe or what I observe on sales call, to say, okay, we need to start with roles and responsibilities on this team, or we need to start with maybe a holistic process flow of these collaborative teams together. And that might be like good starting areas for us. And then it gets, as we're talking with those team members, as we're talking with the executives, we find more information. And that's what begins to build that list. And then we go through it with the stakeholders and say, okay, here's what we found so far. What would be your priorities out of this? Where would you like us to start? Sometimes they say it's all priorities, right? So we just put it into our project list, in that manner. But yeah, I think that's why we're able to have the success that we do with clients.
Okay. Well, we always have this one client or one, they're all important, depending on the level of importance. It could be varied depending on the person, the company. But there's always one that you're most proud of. I have one where There was a ton of challenges. The sales manager wasn't really a sales leader, but she was a salesperson, a very good salesperson. And she finally figured out how to bridge that gap, because leading and actually doing are two totally different things. And I had a great moment because I got a call from her probably like 3 months afterwards. Like, all the things that you said are starting to make sense now. And that was like, wow, that gave me the really great satisfaction. Like, that was pretty cool, and that was a really good moment. What was one of your moments that you can kind of reflect on and made you really proud of what you did and what your team did?
I am super proud of one of our early clients who is still a client, but we were able to help support him in a way that he was able to move from like general manager into becoming the actual COO and beginning to look at what are the activities that he's doing that aren't value adding to the strategy of the company, but instead are just like the daily to-dos. And when we process flowed those items out, we, working alongside him and working with the ERP system that they use, began to make things more efficient, began to build out different systems in different ways that the process can flow, and then standardized. I think over 300 operating procedures we were able to standardize across that company. He's moved into a COO role. He's doing strategic things, and the people and the company, they're just flourishing. Like, they're doing so well. And that is so exciting and such a good indicator of success. It's like when the people are doing well at the company and the employees are happy, and and the people that you're working with are happy.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be a cool feeling, especially. And he was just, he was a leader, but not a part of the C-suite. And because you worked with them and he got so ingrained with the processes and success with it, he became the COO. That's pretty cool. He may owe you a couple thank yous later there.
Let's give him thank you.
So, that's a tremendous story. And like, moving forward, you know what it takes to grow and how to make your clients happy and successful. And I know for sure you have a growth-minded mindset. What do you think your challenges would be moving forward the next couple of years, based on, you had a perfect example of how the market's changing, what you can do, what you can't do. What do you think would be on your radar as, somewhat challenging in the next couple of years to make sure you hit your revenue goals?
Sure. So that's a great question. One thing that even now we're beginning to look at is the idea of, as we multiply the amount of clients we have, I had to look at what does the structure of the company look like, because one process analyst, no matter how good they are, can't support dozens of clients, because the process analyst's job is to intimately know what is the process, how can it be improved, and to be able to hop on to calls or go to workshops and live process flow out the way things are working. So they need to know things about that company. And when you start to get into having dozens of large companies as your client, not only could it get confusing between clients, but you've got confusion that can happen like between different processes within the same company, because there's so much going on. So one of the things that we started this year was began to develop support pods of people. So now, the challenge was, how can, I was the operations expert on every client, and we had Julia was the process analyst on every client. Like, one of the challenges this year was, all right, we've got to get other people up to speed on what is our process. How do we approach things and begin to move them into these 3 to 4 people support this set of clients, and then these 3 to 4 people support this set of clients, and began to build out that structure. And that took a little bit of, I think we're still trying to figure it out as we go, to say like which tasks, what are the roles and responsibilities ourselves of how we support our clients, between having like I mentioned, the operations expert, the process analyst, the project manager, and we also have a support project person as well. Like how do the roles, how do the responsibilities go with each of those roles? And I expect that as we grow, we're going to run into more, I don't want to say that's a gotcha because like I knew that one was coming, but I'm sure there's going to be many different things along our process that we're like, oh, we've got to address this and make this more efficient so that it's happening consistently, so that the process is happening consistently across all of these different pods of people. We don't want one support pod of people to be delivering a final report or recommendations or even just the way that they work with the client to be different from another pod of people. We want it to be a consistent experience because that's what we want our clients to be able to have consistent experiences in their own business. So we should definitely be the one leading that.
Yeah, Erica, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the military. I'm not intimate with the military, like what I like about it, or YouTube shows, History Channel. You should describe the formation of the Special Forces, where you have a pod of people. You have one expert, but maybe they're a munitions expert, but they know a little bit about being a medic. They know a little bit about everything, just in case one person is at capacity where it's not available, they can kind of step in. So that's kind of cool to think about, but also challenging because you got to know everything. They have to be like their own business owner and operator, because just in case someone is not able to fulfill a duty, they need to step in. So there's got to be some type of like technology out there that could really help connect the dots with this. What are you going to use in the future to really help you get to those like people goals?
Oh, so one thing about the technology that is coming up right now, particularly with creating like the artificial intelligence bots and things. Now, I see those very clearly as something that we can use for our clients, because once a process is documented and consistent, and if it is a process that is just repetitive, a bot can be plugged in. So when we are developing our own processes, I'm trying to think in that same manner. We do have some stuff in testing right now that we are using to support, trying not to say too much about it, right? But we have some things in testing right now that we're trying to make things more efficient for ourselves, where we can easily transfer information into the way that we want our clients to see it, and how we can more easily keep track of, if we're taking care of taking 500 pieces of documentation from a client and we need to turn them into SOPs, how can we do that in a consistent manner and keep track of everything to make sure nothing falls through the cracks? We're working on some technology for that currently.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a big step in the right direction. And I worked with, I had a client as an AI developer, and some of the things that he was trying to do for clients was pretty cool. And he gave it sounds so simple the way he was explaining it, but I know it's not. Especially with a chatbot, because we've all had our experience with chatbots, but you get to a point where you just want the information available to the masses. Okay. Obviously, when the chatbot gets to a certain period of their capacity, okay, then someone kind of steps in, and that's what AI is all about. The AI chatbot is only going to be as good as you make it, okay, which takes a lot of data dumping and so much information that the chatbot has access to, because right now they could scrub your web page and your website and all these other internet data points that you allow it to access. But all the internal documents, is what makes it go one step further, because, if you put down all your information on your website, it'd just be completely overwhelming, So I think that's pretty cool. And I hope you have a ton of luck on that, because that's certainly going to help. And I'm happy you're like embracing AI, because I've talked to some people that just don't believe in it. And, great people, but I feel bad because they're not going to be able to keep up, because the amount of technology and convenience and information that AI could certainly support is tremendous. What one area do you think AI could certainly help you and your company, without spilling the secret sauce, because I know you guys are still developing this?
Yeah, definitely. In the one thing that we like to use for now is in refining our communications, which I know is something that if people on here are using, who are listening, are using AI, they might be like, well, that's pretty standard. But I think it was a game changer as far as refining communications goes, because if you say, like you have a communication from the change management point of view, if you have a communication to a company of 50 people versus a company of 2,000 people, the tone and the messaging needs to feel a little bit different. And sometimes when we're inside our own heads and we think about yourself as the leader of your own company and the way that you would write something, I like the use of AI in that you can ask it to question you on, what am I missing here? If I was an employee receiving this email, what are some things that I might have questions about? And you can kind of brainstorm and allow it to assist you with getting things refined and clearer and crisper, so that your message lands better.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested in waiting to see how that works out for you. Do you have a time period where you think it'll be available to at least to some of the public?
Well, as far as what I just described goes, that's something that we're using now with ChatGPT, and we just have our own bots that we've crafted that know us and know our company and know the way that we like to communicate, but then we can use that to bounce things off. And I just think that's something that many other, whether they're employees, whether they're leaders, can be using at any company. One of our document management resources that we're working on now is something that we are in testing. So within a couple of weeks, it's going to be something that we're going to be able to offer as part of our packages to clients.
Could you give me a sneak peek in a couple of weeks? I'm kind of curious.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So with all this growth coming ahead, which I'm thrilled for you, obviously you're going to probably need more manpower, more employees, additional people for your team. For the people out there that could be interested in getting into your growth company, what are you looking for? And when you meet with the candidate, the background that you really like about certain people, what's going to make you hire a person based on who they are?
We like people who have had experience in different sectors of operations, so they can speak to like the order to cash process. They understand what that means. They understand what the different steps there are. So someone who has that type of operations background, no matter what type of role they're going into, we just want a general understanding of operations. And then depending on the role, project managers, someone who can manage a project to timeline and budget is extremely important. PMP certificate. For process analyst, someone who knows lean principles is really important and who can do the process flow. And in our support positions, it's who has the background and is extremely organized, who can support the project manager in ensuring that everything on the project is completed and on time. It can hop in where else is needed. So we do have, we are constantly interviewing people because I see that when it's time to pull the trigger on the next hire, that's not when I want to start looking. That's when I want to be like, we have a list of people. So we are constantly talking. We're constantly interviewing. We have a list of people that have already been vetted, and we're just waiting to be able to go back to them to say, hey, are you interested? We have an open position. We'd like to talk to you now. So we're making it real.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like having a very warm bench of people that are ready to play and work when they need to. So you got it all set up, Erica. What advice could you give to some of the listeners out there that are CEOs, founders, and they're trying to grow their company that they could take away from the work that you've done and the success that you've had?
Well, first, to not try to do it all on your own. I mean, most of what I've described might be my vision, but I have so many people helping to make sure that the vision gets executed. And, and I want to give credit to them. Like, the only reason we have a list of people that we know are good to hire is because my amazing executive admin, Noelle, has gone through and has gone to job fairs and has talked with people and has then interviewed them when we're ready to hire. And the only reason why we have some of our insane project templates that can really say, like, this is exactly how many weeks and how many hours it will take to get a project live is because of our amazing operations lead, Colleen. And the only reason, that we have the process analyst position in a way that is repeatable for somebody else coming onto the company is because of our amazing senior process analyst, Julia. So I strongly say it's about the people that you surround yourself with, and allowing, the second part to that would be allowing yourself to delegate, allowing yourself to speak things into existence, like speak about it, let your team run with it. Try not to be the bottleneck, which I try so hard not to do. But that would be my biggest pieces of advice.
That is good advice, especially the bottleneck part. Good to know that when you have great employees, just let them be great, So that's pretty cool. Erica, what an incredible discussion. Thank you so much for your time. I learned a ton. I'm sure the listeners will too. Your insights on operation optimization and scaling up are valuable. And to all the listeners out there, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform. And don't forget to tune in next time. And as always, I'm your host from Scaling Up, Yong Kim, and thank you for listening.